By his own admission, Hardy has been lucky, as he is perfectly happy to tell anyone he comes from humble people. One of his grandfathers was a labourer and foundryman, the other the turnkey at Northampton County Jail. He lived on Fetters Street. Later, this grandfather, the maternal one, apprenticed as a baker. And Hardy, he really is perfectly happy to tell anyone this, would probably be a baker himself today had his parents not made the wise decision to become teachers. Around the time of his birth, Isaac Hardy was named bursar at Cranleigh School in Surrey, and it was to Cranleigh that Hardy was sent. From Cranleigh he went on to Winchester, from Winchester to Trinity, slipped through doors that would normally have been shut to him because men and women like his parents held the keys. After that, nothing impeded his ascent to exactly the position he dreamed of occupying years ago, and which he deserves to occupy, because he is talented and has worked hard. And now, here is a young man, living somewhere in the depths of a city, the squalor and racket of which Hardy can scarcely imagine, who appears to have fostered his gift entirely on his own, in the absence of either schooling or encouragement. Genius Hardy has encountered before. Littlewood possesses it, he believes, as does Bore. In both their cases, though, discipline and knowledge were provided from early on, giving genius a recognizable shape. Ramanujan's is wild and incoherent, like a climbing rose that should have been trained to wind up a trellis, but instead runs riot. A memory assails him. Years before, when he was a child, his school held a pageant, an Indian bazaar, in which he played the role of a maiden draped in jewels and wrapped in some Cranleigh School version of a sari. A friend of his, Avery, was a knife-wielding Gurkha who threatened him. Odd. He hasn't thought of that pageant in ages. Yet now, as he remembers it, he realizes that this paste and coloured paper facsimile of the exotic East, in which brave Englishmen battled natives for the cause of empire, is the image his mind summons up every time India is mentioned to him. He can't deny it. He has a terrible weakness for the gimcrack. A bad novel determined his career. In the ordinary course of things, Wickhamists, as Winchester men are called, went to New College, Oxford, with which Winchester had close alliances. But then Hardy read A Fellow of Trinity, the author of which, Alan St. Aubyn, really Mrs. Frances Marshall, described the careers of two friends, Flowers and Brown, both undergraduates at Trinity College, Cambridge. Together, they negotiate a host of tribulations, until at the end of their tenure, the virtuous Flowers wins a fellowship, while the wastrel Brown, having succumbed to drink and ruined his parents, is banished from the academy and becomes a missionary. In the last chapter, Flowers thinks wistfully of Brown out among the savages as he drinks port and eats walnuts after supper in the senior combination room. It was that moment, in particular, the port and the walnuts, that Hardy relished. Yet even as he told himself that he hoped to become Flowers, the one he dreamed of, the one who lay close to him in his bed in dreams, was Brown. And of course, here is the joke. Now that he lives at Trinity, the real Trinity, a Trinity that resembles not in the least Alan St. Aubyn's fantasy, he never goes after supper to the senior combination room. He never takes port and walnuts. He loathes port and walnuts. All that is much more Littlewood's thing. Reality has a way of erasing the idea of a place that the imagination musters in anticipation of seeing it. A truth that saddens Hardy, who knows that if ever he travelled to Madras, steeped himself in whatever brew the real Madras really is, then that pageant stage at Cranleigh, bedecked with pinks and blue banners and careful children's drawings of goddesses with waving multiple arms, would be erased. Avery, swaggering toward him with his paper sword, would be erased. And so for this moment only can he take pleasure in imagining Ramanujan, dressed rather as Avery was dressed, writing out his infinite series amidst oriental splendours, even though he suspects that in fact the young man wastes his days sorting and stamping documents, probably in a windowless room in a building the English gloom of which not even the brilliant sun of the East can melt away. There is nothing else to do. He must consult Littlewood, and not this time by postcard. No, he will go and see Littlewood. Carrying the envelope, he will make the walk, all 40 paces of it, to D Staircase, Neville's Court, and knock on Littlewood's door.